All right, guys. Hello, hello. I'm so excited. Today we have Ashley Gibson here, fellow Team Beachbody coach who has been doing this for 6 years now, right? Seven.
Seven. I think I'm at 7
years, that golden seven, that good number. So I'm really excited to have Ashley because the last few years have really been a huge boom for her as she kind of shifted course a little bit, recognizing things that she needed to work on for herself, being more vulnerable with the social media world, which was a huge game changer. She's really grown her following as well. I know for Instagram, she has over 14,000 followers. She has a great interaction with her mom community as well. But Ashley is always learning and educating herself and then sharing that information with other moms. A big thing right now is hormonal health, women and what they should be eating throughout the month, different things like that. I really am drawn to that right now as well, Ashley. So I'm excited about that. In the world of Beachbody, where she's thriving with a 6-figure income, she hit that 6-figure income within 4 years of being in the business, which is a huge accomplishment because we would not be able to do that in the real world market. And if we were doing that in corporate world, we likely would not be home and around our kids. So that's a huge reason that many moms get into the world of network marketing, whatever business you're doing. And then 67 months of Success Club. Now, you don't need to know what that means if you're not a Beachbody coach, but in a small little nutshell, she's changing a lot of lives. That means every month she's showing up and she's helping at least 3 people a month, likely moms, to work on whatever they need to work on individually. I know that Ashley really personalizes things. It's not a cookie cutter thing when it comes to fitness and nutrition. So helping women to find what they need really makes a difference. She is a Marine Corps wife, has 3 boys who are super active. One of my favorite things to watch on social media, especially since I have 2 little boys who are just coming out of their shell as a 3-year-old and a new 1-year-old, trying to keep up with the other 2. So yeah, really exciting 3 moves within the business, but we'll get to Ashley now and let her chat a little bit more about her experiences. So today with Ashley, we're going to be talking about time management. It is a huge issue for a lot of moms to be able to balance their time with their business and to give everything. So Ashley, it's been a while since we caught up. So I would love to know, kind of just in a nutshell, where you're at right now. You have 3 boys, very active, kind of what your day-to-day is like.
Yeah, I love that you have 3 kids now too, because I remember when we were taking a road trip together and you just had Elvie and you were not thinking about other kids.
No, life was much different then.
Much different. So I do have 3 really active boys. They're 10, 8, and a 1-year-old as well. And 2020 turned me into a homeschooling mom. Mm-hmm. So part of our day is that I do homeschool my oldest 2, which is great. It's something I really valued, this experience and the year we've had together, but it did shift how I had to design my day a ton. I was used to dropping my kids off at school and just having that wide open window of 7 hours to focus on myself, on my business. Then I had my newborn, and at that time, the boys were still going to school, and babies sleep a lot, but toddlers do not. So this year has been a huge learning experience in focusing on what matters most, what I have to get done, and realizing that a lot of the things we put on ourselves at the end of the day really aren't that important.
Right.
What we stress about at the end of the day really isn't that important. So I've really had to design both my business and our homeschool days and just my life in general around what are the big things, like the big rocks today that matter most, and everything else is secondary. We'll get caught up with at some other point in time. You asked in the questionnaire about schedules or to-do lists. Mm-hmm. There are only 2 lists I follow. I have one for my business, which I use a Trello board. Trello is an app, but it's
also Trello?
Trello, Trello.
Awesome.
I love it because I don't break it down necessarily in daily tasks, but in weekly tasks. So here's what has to happen this week. Here's what has to happen this month, and here's what has to happen, Monday through Friday.
Giving yourself grace.
Right. If you study the Enneagram, I'm a 7, so I'm very like free spirited, and I actually am not a schedule person, so it's interesting that I'm talking on time management. So I use a Trello board to more be my guiding compass of, okay, here's how to keep yourself within these parameters. Mm-hmm. But I'm very flexible with how that happens in the day.
Right.
Same thing with my kids' homeschool schedule. It's all written out. We know what we have to get done, but it's going to be very flexible in how we make it happen.
It's funny you mention why you would be the time schedule interview, and that's exactly why. Because you know what? It's easy to watch the super type A structured schedulers, but the reality is, especially as moms, we need to have that flexibility, right? So we both started our business in network marketing after becoming moms. Mm-hmm. So we didn't have, like, it was mom came first. That was why both of us got into this business, not only to have something for ourselves, but also to be able to be at home with our kids and to show them, you know what I mean, what it is to hard work and stuff like that. But that's why I wanted to interview you for the time management, because you are juggling a lot with kids and homeschool. Now, the big question is, do you feel like last year kind of, I don't want to say forced structure, but helped, because now that the kids were home, it was like, hey, I don't have time to sit and watch a show. I don't have time to dilly dally in this stuff. You really were able to say, this is what needs to get done. The extras just are not worth it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, 2020 was a huge, like, cut the fat type of year. What's the fat? And let's just get down to the meat and bones of the business and life. So for sure, having them home has forced me to be like more structured than ever, but also just more aware of what matters.
Yeah. And I feel like you guys do so much out of the house and whatnot that, you know, sometimes people feel structure or time management or not being able to just kind of live on the whim or whatnot is restrictive. But in reality, it really gives us a lot more time. And having that to-do list, I love that you use Trello, so I'm definitely going to check that out. I like the to-do list as my mental thinker. So this way, if I have something to do, I can put it on that list. And if it doesn't get done, cool. But when I'm in a brain fog of mom fog, I can just look at that list and it's like, stop thinking, Danielle, just go to that list. What needs to get done today? Okay, this is what can get done right now, especially when the babies fall asleep. You know, that's awesome. All right, let's get back and focus. Okay, so daily exercise. So for yourself, that I know is a top priority. For a lot of moms, especially who have not experienced the benefit of exercise, who are just getting into it and really feel, my phones are beeping everywhere. That's so funny. This one never makes noise, so I don't even know why it's making noise. And I can't turn the other one off.
It's famous.
Yay. Mom life. What would be your biggest tip or suggestion for the mom starting out who doesn't think they have time, who thinks they're too tired? I know for me, it was baby number 3. And Ella be coming home, quite honestly. I started way quicker than I wanted to. I wanted to wait till 12 weeks postpartum, and I started at 9 weeks or 8 weeks postpartum because Ella came home. And it was a huge mental clarity for me, because getting up and doing those workouts in the morning completely changed how I was as a mom throughout the day, completely changed what I got done throughout the day. So for your perspective, when you're talking to moms, what's that value that you share with them? Why that exercise is so important?
Well, for starters, the biggest thing that I've learned, I've always known that exercise helps me a ton mentally, but this year I learned the why behind it. And you mentioned hormones at the beginning of the podcast. So for women, your hormones can fluctuate all over the place, especially as a mom, because you've either recently had children or you're nursing. And during your reproductive years, really your hormones are just like this all the time. Exercise is one of the things that helps stabilize those. So I know that if I don't work out, yesterday, for example, I got up super early, but so did my 1-year-old. He was snotty, teething, not a happy camper. I was not a happy camper. I didn't want to work out, but I knew that if I forced my body out the door, my mind would follow, and it would be a mood lift. So I know that I'm not a nice mom. I know that I'm not a nice spouse when I don't work out. And I think that's what women miss, is they think that exercise is about a jean size or a number on the scale.
Right.
It's really about, how do I want to show up today? Mm-hmm. If I sit on the couch in my robe sipping coffee because I'm tired and, watch the news until Ellen DeGeneres comes on later.
Right.
That's not how I want to show up. So that's how your body feels. That's what your mind feels you want to do, but that's not how I want to show up to life or the world. And I remember that, actually. I remember that feeling when I had 2 under 2 and I was just drinking a pot of coffee to get through the day. I would wake up when the babies woke up. I would bring myself down the stairs like a mom zombie. We would watch Caillou, which is the worst parenting decision anyone can make. Don't let your kids watch Caillou. And it was hard. I made life harder on myself by not actually doing the things. So when I was introduced to working out at home, it did change my body, but it changed more so my mindset. And I think that fitness makes women resilient. And this past year has taught people that you need to build some resiliency into your life, because you can't control a lot of things, but right. You can control how you care for your body.
Adaptability really shifted last year. And I do feel blessed that I've easily adapted to things my entire life. And I've always been that, hey, things happen for a reason, we'll figure it out. And, there was a lot of thinking last year and a lot of conversations, especially with Adam, about, okay, what if your job ends? If things shifted today, where are we at? Where are we going? What does life look like moving forward for us? Who cares what everyone else is doing? Who cared what the world is saying? What do we need right now? And I think that was a clarity moment for a lot of families. And then you have a lot of people who really got stuck and who really let the world kind of dictate their direction. And it's not easy if you don't have a lot of the skills that we've built over the years, that personal development, that mindset, the support of women. It was exciting that I believe it was over 800,000 people in one day worked out with Beachbody On Demand in April or May. I forget what day it was specifically, but it was when all the gyms shut down. It was like people were like, oh, well, I got to do something. And so many people who were in that I cannot work out from home now had to. And what an amazing achievement. Those people are going back to the gym now, but still have their at-home workouts, have that option. But as a mom, you cannot waste that time driving to the gym, getting ready. I work out in my pajamas a lot. It's like, I got to go. I just got to move. You know what I mean? And I now put my workout clothes in my workout area so that if a baby's asleep, mine's still in our room. So our little guy's still in our room. So if he's asleep, I don't want to be opening doors or making noise. I shifted that. But that's awesome. And so what time do you typically work out?
So I get up at 5 a.m.
Okay.
And I usually start my workout 5:30, sometimes 5:45.
And you work out with anyone or totally solo? Like, do you do
Monday mornings? Yeah, I just do a Zoom on Monday morning.
Okay.
So we have our community can Zoom and work out live on Monday mornings. Typically, I do work out alone. Right now, my sister's here visiting, so she's been working out with me.
That's awesome.
I actually have friends all the time who ask to come over and work out with me. So sometimes I'll have a friend. Yeah. There are mornings like yesterday where I got up to do my workout, but the baby got up too. And so then I don't work out until later.
Right.
But then it is with my kids or around my kids. I don't miss it. I don't miss it, because if I miss it, then I'm just not going to be showing up the way I want to for the day.
I hear you. And, and this is where a lot of moms are like, I don't want to work out at home, because if you are working out with your kid, let's say 80% of the time, it's just not the workout that you wanted, So if it's a few days, if it's one day, it's like, okay, do it in the afternoon. If it's a few days in a row, you kind of have to start just doing it and see if they'll do it with you. Grayson, at certain ages, they're really good about doing it with you. The little ones, Louis just wants to climb on me. So if I'm laying down, it's like, he's like, oh, or if I'm in a bridge or a down dog, he's under me, and then the weights are moving and it's like, they want to be right under where the weights go. They're crazy. But
that's awesome. Where the grace and flexibility comes in, because
Yes.
Leo will not let me typically follow everything the video is doing, but
Right.
I know he weighs 30 pounds. And if I just squat it out through that minute with
Right.
holding him, like I'm still doing something.
Mm-hmm. And playing with them. And it really allows them to see the joy and fun in fitness. I look at how life was when I had Elevie, and I did stroller strides and morning fitness every day outside in the stroller. And then when I had Grayson, that opportunity wasn't still there. And we were really living around Elevie's schedule because she was in school and doing all that stuff. So he didn't experience the same things. And then when I had Louie, I was like, I'm not doing that again. Like, this kid has to be exposed to it from day one. You know, Grayson's at an age now that he will do it with me. He'll even sit with me for meditation, which is awesome. But at this time I was like, they have to be exposed to it. When they're exposed to it, they get used to it. And it also lets them know, hey, mom has things to do. There are priorities that I need. I'm a better mom because of this, right? I'm better for you. And that's what we need. So that's what's necessary. That's awesome. Okay. So let's talk about homeschooling. I know the to-do list, you said the Trello, but for homeschooling, what program are you following? Is it a lot that you get to decide on? Do you get to kind of implement it, or is everything more structured in there for you?
So I learned very quickly when my kids were at school last year, but had to come home for distance, that I find no joy in following someone else's homeschool plan.
No, me neither.
So I enjoy, I do kind of a Charlotte Mason style, where there's a general guideline of here's how to approach the day, but I choose our curriculum and books.
Okay.
And I set it up in a way, my oldest has a learning disability, so I have to be flexible with him and find ways for him to learn best, which is different than my middle child, who's smart as a whip. So I find things that I like, and then we design our structure around that, hitting all the major categories, math, reading, literature. But Charlotte Mason is nice because it's a lot of reading. Children learn so well through reading. So it's a lot of reading and oral dictation, and then drawing or painting for the kids in terms of what they're learning. I personally love the mind-hand connection. Like I don't like learning online, and I don't want my kids to learn that way.
Same.
So a lot of the schools they're only learning through Zoom, or everything's digital. I think it's sad. I mean, I want my kids to learn how to use computers, and they live in a digital world, but my friend's third grader, every assignment 100% is submitted online. And when they were distance learning, they were doing 6 to 7 Zooms a day. That's not healthy.
You know what's crazy? Our kids got the books, and when it first happened, I said, hey, so how do I know which pages to follow? Like, I'd rather just do it in the book with her. That's easier for me. It's better visually. And the school stuff did not work for the same reason you just said. It was very surprising that they gave us the books and it wasn't an option to use them. It's like, we all have them. I'm confused why we're not using them, and it kind of gives you your own time as well. Elevie this year repeated second grade, which I find is a blessing, because there's no way. I mean, she was right at the tip. Like, they were like, she can go, but she's kind of on the edge. And I'm like, there's no way I'm doing this with her, putting her in a new grade. She's not going to figure this out, and I'm certainly not going to add that stress. And some people do have the pen and paper, and it's not all digital, and sometimes they thought that was a little bit harder, but it really is interesting. It is a digital world. Everything we do is digital. So to have them on all day long, it's a lot. And you could really see the energy of the kids being drained from it, and I love that you found someone that you resonate with and that you could do your own thing with. I feel like that has been the blessing of homeschooling for a lot of families, because one benefit of homeschool is that if you want to go on vacation, it just goes with you. If you want to do something, it just goes with you. And I learned that years ago. I did my master's degree all online. And people are like, oh, I have to go to class. I have to show up. I'm like, I still have to show up. I still have deadlines, and deadlines are good for me, but I could bring it anywhere. The amount of traveling I did in that year of doing my degree, it was amazing, So It was really, I really like that you found what works for you. And I know you're sharing that. So in regards to the kids, let's talk about childcare, help at home. This is where a lot of moms struggled. And I know that for us, it's a lot different than it was a few years ago, especially before we were making money and stuff. I have a really hard time finding reliable childcare, someone that my kids all like. Grayson is very picky. But I'd love to know, how did you find childcare? How often that you use and work with childcare? Because I see you with the kids all, obviously it's social media, but it's pretty consistent how active you are. So.
Well, I will start at the beginning of my business because I did have, let's see, when I started, I had, 2 under 2. And I think where most moms, especially married moms, need to begin is asking for what they need from their spouse. Because the first conversation always becomes childcare or a babysitter, or do you have a house cleaner? But I would say the first question needs to be, are you asking for what you need from your spouse?
Right.
And when I'm mentoring coaches, team members, oftentimes they're not at all. So for me, in the beginning, it was Brandon. My husband's name is Brandon. I know you don't get what I'm doing, but I need your help. I need you to do bath time and put the kids to bed. I'm going to work for an hour and a half, and we will meet back up on the couch for Gold Rush or whatever he wanted to watch at 9 p.m.
Right.
So like asking for what I needed from Brandon was the first thing I had to learn how to do. And on the flip side of that was honoring my commitment. Because if you were going to ask your husband for help and tell him you're going to work for an hour, or you're going to be there at 9, and you don't come rolling up until 10 p.m. and you're ready to fall asleep, now you're not honoring your commitment. And that becomes a problem in marriage.
That is a great tip. Yeah.
So starting with your spouse for sure. And in the beginning, I did ask for help from friends. We would trade. I didn't have money to invest in childcare. So my friend Monica would take my kids for a couple hours each week, and then her son would come play at our house. So that's a practical place for women to start, is your spouse and your friends. Who can you trade? Who, like right now, to do this podcast, my 3 boys are at my good friend's house. I just had her 3 kids over last week for a couple hours. I knew she was going to say sure when I asked her if she could take my boys. Fast forward to today, I do have help on Wednesdays. On Wednesday mornings, I have a girl come for 2 hours, but it's interesting because when she comes, she's not coming so that I can do my Beachbody work. She's actually coming so that I can be fully focused in a mentorship I joined at the beginning of the year.
Awesome.
Which is, it is Beachbody work because it's personal growth.
Right.
But I wanted to make sure I could be 100% tuned in and learning, which will ultimately help my business, but I'm not always actively working my business in that time. And then just this year, January 2021, it was a goal to hire someone to help clean. So I have someone come once a week. She does cleaning and she folds my laundry, which is wonderful. I get the laundry washed and put in bins, but she folds and sorts it.
That's awesome. And how often did you say she comes?
She comes once a week.
One time a week. Awesome. And now how did you find her?
So she's a military spouse. I just saw her post in a local lives page and she was starting her business. I love investing in women who are building their own business, and told my husband, I'm stimulating the local economy.
Heck yeah. And supporting other military spouses.
Yeah.
We're both military spouses. We have a huge military community in Virginia Beach, and I do often forget to reach out there first, and like last year, a lot of that shifted because people weren't easily going into homes and stuff. But when you have those close friends, a lot of people were comfortable with their close-knit friends to be able to associate with. I absolutely love that because I've had cleaning people a few times, and I'm not going to lie, I don't do well with it because if I'm paying someone, like I really want it to look really good. And I enjoy cleaning. I actually do enjoy cleaning. I don't enjoy what you just talked about. Folding the clothes, those are things that I have Adam to, but it would be great to have someone that comes and it's like, hey, the load is in the laundry. If you can fold that and put them in the rooms. And I do try to get the kids doing more of what they can. Grayson is super helpful. Elavie complains a lot, but we're working on it and we're getting there. But I love that. I think that those are amazing tips. My friend did a ticket system with their stroller group. They created their own little stroller group. Each person got 5 tickets. And when you babysat someone, you gave them a ticket. So it was like an equal trade, and you can work with, anyone, but it was a completely a free system for babysitting and stuff, local moms. So I think that's great. I'll be honest, it's actually more helpful when kids come over because the kids are entertained. They're out of your hair, they're playing. It really is a lot of fun. At first, you think it's going to be a lot more work, and maybe you put a few extra snacks out every now and again, but it really takes a lot off of you and it wears them out, which is also really nice. Awesome.
I love having kids over.
Yeah, I like it. I forget though. You forget. And I'm not good at planning that stuff. So like my friends will say, hey, I really want to have a play date. And I'm like, we do the same thing every day. Just come over, or like just message me the night before and say, hey, can we do tomorrow? I'm like, because I'm not the initiator. I'm really not good at that kind of stuff because I honestly don't think about it. Do you initiate a lot of the, I'm sure when you're doing work like this, obviously you initiated asking a friend because you knew you had something, but do you find that your friends reach out to you more, or is it like an equal?
I have one friend where it's definitely equal. I would say mostly I am the initiator, but that's also part of my personality. Like I love community. I want my kids to learn to love community. I want to be the house that, like, sure, your kids can come by. Our bathroom smells like pee because my boys can't hit the bowl to save their lives, but just like swing by. Right. I think part of, and this is where going back to like being an on the go mom. Well, there's 2 things I want to say. The first one, we'll just wrap up finding help, is be persistent with finding help in the areas that you need it. So like a lot of women will approach a house cleaner. Well, I can't afford someone to come clean my whole house. Okay. Like you said, what do you struggle the most with? What takes the most time? Because several years ago, I paid someone just to come fold the laundry.
Right.
And that was a lot cheaper than doing my whole house. It was something I could afford. So you can be persistent in finding the help you need in the areas that are your biggest time suck. And oftentimes it's a lot cheaper to hire a local military spouse or a woman from church than it is to hire a company. So like just be resourceful and think through that stuff.
Right.
But going back to just being in community and in relationships, I am on the go a lot. If people watch my stories or they see me, we are always doing something somewhere.
Right.
That does not hinder my business at all. That helps it because we have in so many relationships within the community. People actually get to know me in person.
Yeah.
And I think so many network marketers are hiding behind their screens all day thinking, I can't go to that play date or I can't join that running club because I need to be home building my business. Being around people is building your business. Most of my clients know me in person because they see me out and about. They don't see me on Instagram. They see me in real life. And that builds a lot of trust with people. So you hear that common objection from network marketers. Oh, I'm going to run out of people to talk to. I would say if you're running out of people, you're not being a good friend at all. And that's the reason you're running out of people.
Oh yeah. I've been a Beachbody coach for 10 years. And I still have a warm market. I use my warm market. My cold, I'm not as good with the cold market. Like I like knowing people. That's my personality. When people say you can get in a line with strangers and leave with 3 friends, you know what I mean? It's like, I like to talk. I don't like that uncomfortable silence. So I'm always talking and stuff. Last year shifted a lot with the baby. And I think what's hard over the past year is where you're from, because you guys are in a great area where a lot of stuff is still active and open and the weather is nicer too. Virginia had a little bit more limitations, and then people in California, New York, a lot more limitations, and then some states, no limitations. So depending on where you're from, you didn't have to shift too much, but I know us, a lot of things closed down. So our normal places that we would go with the kids, it was like, where do we go? And being outside, even our parks, it was like, thanks. So we got a swing set and we met so many of our neighbors last year. I feel super blessed that 2 years ago we moved into a more home family neighborhood. Thank goodness, because we met so many neighbors, played so many, like the kids just within our block radius, which was so fun. And then kids of all ages. So not just one of the kids' ages. So that made a difference as well. And network marketing really is that extreme. You have the introverts right? Who do really, really well because they're comfortable at home and now they can do everything from behind the scenes. And I'll say, doing like just traveling yesterday, I'm like, man, I don't know how people record their life all day long. Like, I just forget about it. Like, I've always struggled with social media because of that. The sharing of it, it's like I'm in the moment so much that I really forget about, like, oh, this would be really good to record, or so I do question what people do sometimes because, like, I just forget. But let's move on to the next thing. So one of the biggest and best parts of being in network marketing, and something that you really don't often get in corporate America or a job where you do have friends there, it's typically just one, two, three, right, that you connect with. So the value of your team, how much time do you give to team calls right now? And what are your other team connections? Obviously, it's changed a lot over the years. I know it has for me. And that's one thing I love about this, that you can push when you need to, you can back away when you need to, you still have that support and that team aspect. So where is it right now for you with your business and your team?
Our team does a weekly call on Wednesday. So we do have a one weekly Zoom. And then we have a Friday morning podcast club, which I just started this year, we started the end of last year, but it's been a lot of fun because people love book clubs and discussing the same idea. I'm not someone who can get through a book very quickly. So we will discuss podcasts. We'll just pick one for the week and meet to discuss it.
I love that.
And we include our clients on those too. So we try and hit, motherhood, relationships, business, personal growth, just picking from different categories. So those are the only two. We have our Monday morning workout, our Wednesday evening team call, which is always business related. But then our Friday podcast, again, that's for both clients and team members. And that's really the only, I will do one-on-one. Like today, I scheduled a one-on-one call when I know people need it or they've reached out. But I don't do a ton of like one-on-one Zooms anymore. I make sure my team knows where I'm at. I provide the places for them to show up to, but like you got to meet in the middle. I'm not chasing people down.
No, I agree. And I always give time to the people who ask for it, and they are very specific about it. And it's great because when you put that value on your time, they do come to you saying, hey, I specifically need to learn about the compensation plan. I specifically need to learn about creating a podcast. I specifically need to learn these things. And then you know what you're going to the call with. You have that focus and structure. One thing I did, I changed my Zooms so that they have to knock off at 40 minutes. And the reason I did that was because when it's endless time, you find yourself just getting lost into it. But when you get that 10-minute countdown, you're like, yes, okay, 10 minutes, like we're going to wrap this up. And it keeps you on point, which is amazing. So that was a huge shift for me. And then we could just hop back on. So if we have things we still need to talk about, even for my workouts, I do morning workouts. We hop off at 40 minutes and it gives people an out. If they can't join for meditation, if they don't want to do the yoga or whatever we're shifting to. And I feel like my clients really like that too. Yeah. It makes it more comfortable that if they can't stay on the call, people have a hard time kind of walking away sometimes. So I love that. That's awesome. The podcast club, podcasts like just skyrocketed to a whole nother level in the past year, which is super exciting. So let's talk about Brandon a little bit and kind of juggling life as a wife and time management. Like obviously he's military. So any military spouse out there knows how frequently the schedules shift. That has to be one of the biggest frustrations and unknowns in the world of military. But when we do have them home, it's nice to be able to include them and do things like that. So where are you guys at? Let's talk about right now, and then we'll kind of backpedal a few years ago when you had that kind of light bulb moment for yourself and shifting yourself.
Currently, Brandon is a little over 18 years in the Marine Corps, so he'll retire. And
that is so exciting.
Yes, he's at the end of his career is where he's at.
And you're young. So it's like, if you get in young, I have chills because it's such an exciting time when they have that opportunity to stay or leave.
Yeah, I think he will not quite be 37 when he retires, which is crazy.
Right? So young. Love it.
So when we moved to Yuma, when we came to Arizona, it will be 3 years ago in April, he took over a job here that actually made him home all the time, which was a bigger struggle than him being gone all the time. And you're nodding because like military
I remember it.
Can relate. Yeah. Yeah. Actually having him around created more conflict than when he was constantly away, just because you get used to running a tight ship. And I think, you know, absence makes the heart grow fonder. So when you spend the first, you know, 12 years of marriage learning how to be apart, suddenly you're together and you're like, isn't it time for you to go somewhere?
Right. Like
and then they don't go anywhere.
For you to do. Like, I mean, even just like a week.
Yeah. Don't you have to go to San Diego for something?
If a job pops up, just take it, babe. It'll be good.
Yeah. No, so that was a huge shift, learning how to be home together in marriage when we came here. And then, of course, learning how to be home together more in a pandemic. We are at a really good place. I think moving here and really having Leo, because there's a 9-year age gap between my oldest and my youngest.
Right.
We've developed a much better partnership.
Right.
I had to learn a lot of things the hard way. And because it's so easy to blame your spouse for things like what they're not doing right. And there was a point in time, maybe 5 years ago now. Wait, how old am I? No, it wasn't that long ago.
No, it was like 3, right?
It was 3. I was going to say, I'm 33 on my 30th birthday.
Yeah.
I'm 33. So this is my 30th birthday. My husband actually asked for a separation. Like he thought we should separate because I had just gotten so into doing my own thing, almost too independent. The military can make you too independent.
And they teach you that. The hardest thing is they teach you that you need to be independent, not to bother them because they can't have the distractions. And it messes with both of us, that's both spouses on both sides of it. You know what I mean? The one that's away in the active duty and then the one that's home as well.
Yeah. So a combination of me just like, being too independent, but also I had not yet been diagnosed with PMDD, which is a premenstrual dysphoric disorder. It's a severe hormone imbalance right before you ovulate. It affects way more women than they realize. But it's mostly a week out of every month. I feel like a crazy person, just totally angry and can't keep my thoughts together and distracted. And like, okay, this reminds me of what postpartum felt like, but it only lasts a week. And then as soon as your period starts, you feel fine. Right. And that was like the cycle that we hadn't identified. So part of like my diagnosis and getting treatment for that definitely saved our marriage. But I would say more of what saved our marriage was like doing the internal work to recognize, okay, what is my part in this? And there's so much that's easy to blame your spouse on, but if you just address what is my part first and only focus on your part, things will start to like naturally shift. There's a woman I love following, and she said the other day, when you get married, two become one, right? That's kind of biblical, but essentially you're joining 2 lives, you become the same person. And so many women will approach things when they're unhappy with nagging, complaining, divisiveness, like just blaming. And that's like being an autoimmune disease to your own body. Because if you 2 become one, you are one body. And if you're constantly nagging and complaining, you're an autoimmune disease to yourself, really. The whole unit's not going to function well.
Right.
So I had spiraled into this, like everything was his fault. And once I just addressed myself and did that work, our whole marriage shifted. I mean, we still have issues, but married people don't have issues, but
it's the self-work, and so many people miss that. And I have friends right now that are going through some issues, and that's what I, keep saying to the husband. I'm like, you really can't worry about the other person. You really have to only focus on you, because you are the only person you have control of. Right. And when you focus on yourself, it is a reality check, and you become your best self. You show up your best self, and doing those things like personal development, exercise, clean eating, and putting yourself in that mental state has you respond to your spouse differently, and I love that you share about the PMDD. I do feel like a lot more people go through it. no, personally, I don't go to the doctor unless I'm pregnant. So that's not good. I'm not recommending it. It's just, how I am. But a lot of times it's not introduced to you. Like, you don't want to put ideas in people's heads, but at the same time, when you go to a doctor's appointment and that annual appointment, I have so many friends who are like, oh, I got all this blood work done and all this stuff. And I'm like, well, did you ask for it? Or is that something they just do? Because I'm not even thinking to ask for that stuff. So if the doctor doesn't say, hey, we recommend this because you're XYZ years, or because you haven't had it done in a while, or let's just see where you're at, right? If they're not saying, hey, how are you feeling? Right after you have a baby, they ask you those questions because of postpartum depression, but you only see them at 6 weeks postpartum. And then you see them for the baby appointments. And I do think they ask at the baby appointments, but this last year, a lot of people weren't going, you know what I mean, to their typical appointments. So that's why it is good. That's why social media does have a huge benefit, because people are sharing, and it is the value of sharing. Because while a lot of times, especially in the beginning, you feel like you're not being heard, even if one person hears your message and it changes their life to dig a little deeper, holy impact, And I know for myself, when you shared about that, I was like, oh, I'm on a level. I don't know which level I'm on, but I'm there. And there's like 2 days that I'll just be, and I'm like, what is wrong with me? And then I look at the calendar and I'm like, ah. And I'm so much better at it now. Like, when I was getting ready for this trip and that time was coming, I was like, you got to be kidding me. So I sat down with Adam. I said, I'm leaving on Thursday. My cycle is starting. Your parents are coming. There's a lot going on. Like, give me grace. You know what I mean? Like, know where I'm coming from. It's not going to be perfect. I'm recognizing it. I know that I'm not the best right now, but like, there's a lot of variables and this is happening. So don't let down your guard. Do not fight me on these things, because it's just going to add to it. And let me tell you, it was a breath of fresh air. It's like, okay, he's like, reality check. Okay. Like, let me tell it. Because man, my husband has like PMS right along with me. I'm like, who are you? Like, stop.
That's not good when you're both PMS. But I think that goes back to why it's important to take care of yourself, because PMDD was a later onset for me. But I really feel like if I didn't have a baseline of understanding this is what it feels like to feel good, healthy, and thriving, then I wouldn't, because your body tells you what's wrong. But if you're not treating it right, it's like all these buttons are going off, but you don't know which light to pay attention to.
Yeah.
So when I started experiencing PMD symptoms, I was like, I knew what it felt like to feel good. Right. I knew that wasn't it. So I had to go searching for answers. But I think so many people go through life and they've never experienced what feeling good feels like as a baseline.
Yeah. It's, you know what? You hit the nail on the head right there, Ashley. And too many people, they think it's normal, right? To not feel good and to be unhappy. And it's like, it's not normal. It doesn't have to be that way. If you're not happy, if you don't feel good, something needs to shift. And typically you need to be the person to do it. We get so comfortable, right? Especially people go into work, clock in and out. It's their norm. It's what they know. It's what they know how to do. And they can't see themselves doing anything else. I know personally, I always was a dreamer. I could see myself and beyond, until I had that phase of unhappiness, until I got stuck in a time where I was like, I don't see future. Like, I can't even envision. And that was really hard for me, because it's like, this is what I do. I can easily do it. And my life was not that vision. And it was like, like something's got to shift. So I either have to adapt, figure out what I need and want. And as a mom, it changes with every kid. They each have different personalities. That is a big, and you got to deal with those personalities. And your spouse is unique with each child too. For us, Louis is a huge blessing, I think, for Adam, because he's my first non-breastfed child. I pumped, he couldn't nurse. So Adam got to feed him. Adam puts him to bed every night. Like, they have this bond that he just never had. And first he was gone all the time with Elavie. With Grayson was just attached to me in a way that until you have kids that are attached to you. You don't even know it's possible. But they have this bond, and it was a huge shift for him because I don't know, we get to experience some of what I experienced with the kids, So I love that. I love seeing you guys grow and bond. And 3 years ago, I think that was shortly after our trip to Alpena when we had that long drive to the airport. Was that 4 years ago? Or was that 5 years ago? I forgot, man, was it already 5 years ago? So maybe it wasn't shortly after, but it was like mildly like not too long after that trip. So
yeah, it wasn't too, maybe I was like 18 months. Cause I know I was teaching PE at the time in South Carolina. So
yeah.
But yeah, it was close. It was close.
Yeah. Yep. And, yeah, and Adam and I were going through a lot. If it was, it's 21, 20, 19, 18, 17. Yeah. And I'm glad we did this. I'm glad we caught up. You really just shared some really amazing things. Schedule, time management, Trello, keeping your work schedule to a consistent and letting your team know where you're going to be and where to show up to have your time, valuing your time. That's huge. Reaching out to get help where you need it, starting with your spouse because they're there, letting them know they're not a babysitter. They're a parent. So forget that. But asking for help from your local community. Now you're helping moms in your community as well. And you're getting to know more people too. So you're building that relationship, community building, and then marriage, but working on yourself. It really is the primary goal. And yeah. So I'm going to look at your survey real quick because I know there was something in there that I love so the end result that you see in mine, I'm just going to share this. So I send out my little podcast survey, lots of adventures, exploring the world. Oh, nope. That's the wrong one. Sorry. But you still,
I like that stuff too.
Yeah. I was like, you still have lots of adventures. That's why it made sense. Happy, healthy, whole family. I love that. And I feel like we really get that from the way you speak, the way you share your life. A lot of people talk about social media being the highlight reel, but the reality is if you're living your best life, then your highlight reel is a lot of your reality. And when you're sharing your vulnerable moments, people appreciate that. It's your reality. So I love where you're at. I love where you're showing yourself, where you're going. It's been amazing to be connected with you over these past few years and to see you grow and emerge as a coach and just with everything that you've kind of built over the last few years. But I feel like the last 2 to 3 specifically have just been such an educational change, an educational shift for you and learning how to share that with others. So anything that you want to share? Or I think we did good. I had fun. I enjoyed.
I would just say for the women like listening to this podcast who are new to building the business, just stay consistent. Like Danielle kind of talked about at the beginning, there's nothing super special about either of us except that we're still here, that we've never quit when things got hard. Like we don't do anything fabulous.
We did it for us first. It was for ourselves. Health and fitness was for ourselves. Helping people was a secondary bonus. And I think that's a great tip to share, Ashley, because that's what I tell anyone, whether you're in makeup, whether you're clothing, whatever you're doing, you have to love the products that you're working with. They have to be for you first. And anything else from that is a bonus and an extra. And I really do feel like it makes a difference because you got to stick out those first few years. So awesome. Thank you so much. So you can just share with everyone on Instagram. You are
Ashley.j.Gibson.
Awesome. And then do you do Twitter?
I don't do Twitter. I mean,
no, I don't either.
No. I'm just on Instagram and Facebook primarily. I tried to pretend I was going to be a TikToker, but I don't understand it.
TikTok, when that whole thing came out about security stuff, I was like, I can't deal with this thing. I can't deal with this stuff anymore. I want to
hang out on Instagram primarily.
Yeah, that's awesome. So follow and connect with Ashley on Instagram. That is the place to be educated and learn and grow with her and by her and all of that. So thank you so much, Ashley, for being on. Until next time.